Hello everyone, today we are going to be talking about the Amazon Basics dual tip brush pen. Now when you look at these, they almost look like a Tombow. If you're familiar at all with Tombows, their packaging, I'm sorry, not their packaging, but the way their pen is designed looks just like a Tombow. So let's test them out and see, are they really like a Tombow but way cheaper? So I will let you know my opinions by the end of this video. Let's first start off with what are they. These are a blendable, flexible nylon brush and fine tip set of markers. The flexible brush tip is said to be resilient and can be used to create thin, medium, or bold strokes depending on the amount of pressure applied. And this pen also has a firm fine tip, which is bullet shaped to create narrow lines. The ink is also blendable. Now, what sets do these come in? These come in a 12 pack, a 24 pack, and a 52 pack. So I got the 24 pack because I wasn't sure if I was going to love these or not, so I just didn't want to buy the whole thing if I wasn't sure. So how should these be stored? Now, if you know anything about brush pens, then you should know that these should be stored horizontally because they have the dual tip. So if you store them vertically, you run the risk of them drying out on one side or just the ink being inconsistent on one side. What paper should you use? So I always recommend using a smooth paper like marker paper for brush pens because it will decrease the risk of your nib fraying. You can also use these in bullet journals. I use the Archer and Olive bullet journal. I know they have smooth paper there, so I'm not worried about that fraying my nib. Canson XL marker paper is a great paper. It's very thin, it's very smooth. It won't fray your nibs. However, if you want to do blending, then you do need a different kind of paper. And then I always have to put this disclaimer that you do run the risk of ruining your nibs when you use a paper that has texture. Like I use mixed media paper, the Canson XL mixed media paper, or a Canson XL watercolor paper. But for me, it's worth it because I do a ton of blending, and these are a low-cost pen, so I'm not so worried about ruining the nib. Next, we'll talk about the blendability. These do blend pretty well, but I do notice that they do dry a little bit quicker. So you have to work very fast if you are trying to blend. So this first blending is done on marker paper, and you can see that it doesn't really work that well because the paper is so thin. So then I blend on watercolor paper and the results are much better. But again, you do run the risk of fraying your nibs. So you really have to think, what do I want to use these pens for? Now personally, I love blending, so I would have to use a textured paper like a watercolor or mixed media paper. Next, let's talk about the upstrokes and the downstrokes. So I did notice one thing about these pens, and that was the fact that the nibs were inconsistent throughout the pens. So one that I got from the start before I even used it was very firm to start. So that was nice. But then another one that I used was very soft. So it made thicker upstrokes. So you can use these and have very thin upstrokes, but what I didn't like is the inconsistency. So it wasn't like I was using the same brush pen every time. It was almost like I had to relearn a new brush pen. You can get a really nice thick downstroke with these. You can also vary it so it doesn't have to be super thick. And to vary it between the upstroke and the downstroke, it does require a little bit of control since the nib is very, very fine. But once you get the hang of that, it seems to transition very well. So next, let's talk about these versus Tombows. So there is a significant difference when you are using a Tombow. You can see the thickness, first of all. The Tombow is thicker, and also when you are writing with it, you can feel a difference too. So the nib does bounce back with the Tombow, which is what you are looking for in a good brush pen. As far as the looks though, they look almost identical to the Tombow pen. However, we're not so concerned about the looks as much as we are the quality. So they definitely would match up to their price. They're not the same quality as a Tombow marker. Now, as far as the bullet nib side goes, for a Tombow, it's a little bit thicker when you're writing versus the Amazon Basics pen. I do also want to say that I noticed the colors in the Amazon Basics pen is not quite as vibrant as the Tombows are. So that's one thing to look out for too, but maybe you're looking for something that's a little bit more subtle, and if you are, then definitely those Amazon Basics pens would be good for that. So the pros of these pens is that they are cheap. They come in numerous colors, so I love that. They also have the dual side, which I love. There's multiple different uses that you can use them for. So these are all great things about them. Now, as far as the cons go, they don't have such great bounce back in the nib when you're using them for calligraphy. So that's definitely not good if you are a beginner and you need that feedback from the nib so that you can feel the pressure of how much weight you are putting through your pen on the paper. Another thing that I don't really like is that the colors aren't as vibrant. I love vibrant colors, so that's one thing that these are lacking. Overall, I don't think that these are horrible. So I think that these are a good budget-friendly brush pen. It just depends on how particular you want to get. You get so many different colors with them, which is a great feature. So also with the bullet nib side, that's also great as well because there are so many uses for having dual-sided brush pens. Would I repurchase these again? The answer is yes, I would, because I think they are fantastic for me to use and not have to worry so much about ruining the nibs on my more expensive brush pens, because I know that these are on the cheaper side, so you can experiment with them and not worry so much like Some may. I know that I do when I purchase an expensive pen. I don't want to ruin the nibs. So these I can experiment with and not worry so much that I will damage these pens. Thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and let me know down below in the comments if there's any other pens that you would like me to review. I'm happy to get them and review them for you guys.